What's up guys, it's CG. So this is going to be a thorough review of Iommi Monkey Special by the house of Xerjoff. First, I'm going to give you guys a rundown so you have a general idea what the fragrance is about. Then I'm going to share how users rated the scent profile and the performance. My wife and I are going to share our impressions of it. And finally, I'm going to share my overall opinion having worn it. Without further ado, let's get this started. Alright, so this fragrance is a weird one, but I actually feel it's very inviting. A lot of people think that this is polarizing, that this is hard to wear, and I'm just going to think for myself here and say I don't see that at all. But it has a weird gritty-like nature. It's not animalic, but it has this funk and edge to it that's actually quite fresh on a bed of like a boozy oatmeal cookie sort of vibe. So it's got this almost Christmas feel, oatmeal cookie, boozy sweetness with this edgy, sharp, unique nature on top of it. In the top, you have bergamot, rum, Bulgarian geranium, and passion fruit. In the heart, you have cinnamon, patchouli from Singapore, and leather. In the base, you have sandalwood, vanilla, caramel, labdanum, and musk. The average scent rating it received was an 8.5. 78% of voters gave it an 8 or above, and only about 1 out of 5 of them would give it a 7 or lower. You can see that there's polarization here. There's some scores as low as a 1 to a 4, but there really isn't that much polarization. Like reading and researching this fragrance, I would think that it was super polarizing. But after using it myself and understanding it better, I really think the people that just dislike this fragrance are more likely to speak out. My personal opinion is it's really not that hard to wear and not that polarizing. But yes, for some people, they're definitely not going to like this one. It's definitely a try before you buy. Personally, I would give the scent rating a 10, but the first time I tried it, I would have gave it a 3. I really didn't like it at first. It's one I really had to have grow on me over time. Now I can't live without it, so it was an acquired taste in my case. For longevity, I got an average score of a 9. We're all in agreement here. This stuff just lasts. There's no low scores on here basically, and that's my experience with it as well. Like 10 hours easy. For sillage, it got an average of an 8.7. 92% gave it an 8 or above. We're all in agreement once again. This stuff just literally fills a room. I've had people think that I've sprayed it at work when I really sprayed it 6 hours ago. Very strong, very long lasting. The scent is polarizing, but it's an acquired taste for some, including myself, and some people just love it instantly. Definitely worth trying to see how you react to it. So I've been putting off reviewing this fragrance for quite some time because I've had to go and contemplate a lot how I would describe the scent profile of this one. And really it's pointless. Like, you're not going to know what Iommi smells like until you smell it. No matter how many reviews you watch, how much stuff you read, it's a totally unexpected result, and it smells like nothing at all. It's not derivative of any other fragrance, and I can't think of many scents in real life that I would actually compare it to. I'm going to give you the impression I ultimately arrived at, but ultimately it's going to be kind of senseless. I'm just letting you know this is what I get from it after thinking about it, okay? So Iommi has a weird grit to it, almost like a dirty nature to it. And it's not something that's animalic, but it has a funk. And the funk is very sharp, it's very edgy, and it actually has a bit of freshness. And that funk is what makes Iommi. I feel like if that wasn't there, it'd just be a basic oatmeal cookie boozy smell. Almost like a nice cinnamon, warm, cozy sweater type of fragrance. But it is that in the base, but in the top there's something else that's, you either find it addictive or you find it very repulsive. And in that top, the way I would describe it, the first time I smelt it, I immediately thought of fermented bread, like rye bread or something. That was just immediately like the first time I smelled it, and I couldn't stand it the first time I smelled it. I really didn't like it. I thought it smelled weird and off-putting, and it reminded me of fermented bread. Now spending more time with it, I still get that fermented rye bread sort of smell, but I also get a lot of raisins in it. And I know I've read and heard passion fruit. I don't know what a passion fruit tastes like. I don't know what it smells like. I've not been exposed to passion fruit. All I can tell you is I get a fruitiness, and it's very raisined. So like in fragrance, a lot of times fruit can have water in it. It can be kind of aerial or fresh, or it can be candied. or it could be like a kind of dessert type fruit, like with lemon bundt cake or something. But with this, I'm getting like a raisin fruit almost that type of, you would imagine like dark, dense fruit smell, like raisins. So fermented bread with, I guess, what's passion fruit raisins. And I also get a banana smell, but the banana to me it's not as prominent as I expect with a name like Monkey Special, or based on what I've read online where people get pure banana. It's almost like I'm getting like a rye bread with passion fruit raisins with banana chips almost. So like, because it has that gritty nature to it. The banana has a gritty, almost dehydrated banana, raisins with that rye fermented bread, and all this creates what I would say is the gritty nature of Iommi Special for me. And in the opening, that's very prominent, that Iommi smell. That is on the top, and then there's almost like an oatmeal cookie booziness in the bottom. But primarily what I'm getting is that dirtiness. And that dirtiness dials back, and the oatmeal cookie becomes more prominent and it becomes more wearable like 30 minutes after application. But that dirtiness is, and that edge is always there throughout the fragrance's life. In the far dry down, this becomes a really nice, inviting, comforting fragrance. Really, every time I've sprayed it, my wife and I just love it, and we think of something that's very inviting. I know this is polarizing, and I had a rough relationship with it. Like the first time I smelled it, I couldn't stand it. Now it's one of my favorites. I think I had to explore more niche and really get kind of sick of everything smelling the same, get sick of all the cinnamons and all the fuzzy sweater fragrances to actually appreciate this. I had to approach it wanting something different and wanting to like it. And it really is one of those ones that grows on you fast if you give it a fair chance. But I can imagine somebody early in their niche journey, still haven't explored too much, still really looking for those crowd-pleasing fall fragrances, would smell this and just not get it at all and be repulsed by it. And maybe I've abused my tolerance for fragrance, but I think of this as something very wearable. I went through a thing with Carlisle for a while where I felt it was very wearable, but everything I read online said it was very polarizing, and that caused me to get self-conscious. So I ended up selling my Carlisle, because even though I felt like I could wear it anywhere, after all I read, it just made me overthink it. Like I didn't want to wear something and offend people at work if I'm going to be stuck with them for 8 hours. So I ended up selling my Carlisle, and I'm not going to let the same thing happen to Iommi. I do not think it's super dark goth metal. I don't think it's very hard to wear. I think it smells really good. Maybe in the opening it's a lot. I love the opening, but maybe it's a lot with all that grittiness going on. But in the dry down, to me, it's like an oatmeal cookie with a bit of an edge. And that edge is sharp and fresh. I don't think this is something that's polarizing to a lot of people around you. And honestly, I just don't care. I'm done with it. I'm not going to sell this because everybody online says this is the goth metal lord of fragrances. Like, I really don't think that this is that dark. This came out with collaboration with Black Sabbath. This isn't the fragrance that I would associate with old school metal or really dark kind of nature fragrances. So to give you an idea of what I would actually expect somebody from like Black Sabbath to wear, I would think of Orto Parisi Quayum, or I would think of Zoologist T-Rex, or the Amouage Interlude. Those are what I consider to be very dark fragrances. This isn't that at all. This is more like a Tim Burton movie to me. Kind of got a dark nature to it, but ultimately beautiful and artistically done. Like I think of movies like Nightmare Before Christmas, or just the aesthetic of like Edward Scissorhands, or even like Beetlejuice has a certain dark aesthetic, but ultimately it's not like super crazy in your face dark. You know what I'm saying? It's more inviting and warm. That's what I get from Tony Iommi that I love so much. And I really don't get that from any other fragrance. The guy that actually introduced me to Tony Iommi, he didn't really like the opening, but he really loved the dry down. He said something like spray it on a jacket and come back to it several hours later. Me, I really like the opening, but I'm a bit of a nut job, so take that with a grain of salt.
Xerjoff, Tony Iommi. Let's see. very interesting. Okay, this smells really good. Oh, it smells like walnut cake, but imagine that the walnut cake has like a little bit of like some kind of alcohol in it. It's fantastic for the winter and the fall, and it smells like somebody who's older than I mean, if you're 20 and you want to start wearing this, you're gonna be fine. Like, you're gonna smell good and it's gonna be perfect. But in my perception, this screams I am more mature and I know who I am type of thing. Great. 9.5.
So my overall opinion of Iommi is it's definitely for me. Obviously, I got the 100 milliliter bottle. I think it has a great, tremendous value. I think it's very worth the money because of the performance. Like, literally 3 sprays, you're done. So like a 100 milliliter bottle will last you forever. There's some fragrances where you need like 8 sprays or 5 sprays. This one, really 3 small sprays, you're good, and it's gonna project and fill a room. Has such a unique nature, definitely true niche, offering something that I feel nobody else is offering out there. And also, I think it's wearable. Don't care what people say, you're not gonna convince me otherwise. I wouldn't get a 100 milliliter bottle if I didn't think it was very wearable. Yeah, curious what y'all's opinions are on this fragrance. Feel free to leave those in the comments. Subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.